The lights in the Dolby Theater blazed with an intensity that made everything feel unreal. 12-year-old Miguel Santos stood in the wings, his small frame almost disappearing behind the massive black curtains that separated him from the stage. His hands trembled as he gripped the edges of his jacket, a navy blazer that looked expensive from a distance but up close revealed the careful stitching where his mother had mended a tear along the shoulder. His shoes, polished to an almost mirror shine, hid the cardboard inserts he had placed inside to cover the holes in the soles. Miguel had never imagined he would be here. 3 months ago, he was singing in the streets of Manila during rush hour, his voice competing with jeepney horns and the calls of street vendors. His spot was always the same, right outside the Ayala Center where businessmen and tourists would pass by, sometimes dropping coins into the small bucket his younger sister held. That was before the video. Before everything changed. A producer's assistant touched his shoulder gently. "You're up next, Miguel. Are you ready?" He nodded, though his throat felt tight. Through the gap in the curtains, he could see them, the 4 judges sitting at their table. Heidi Klum with her warm smile. Howie Mandel leaning back in his chair. Sofia Vergara radiating glamour. And Simon Cowell, the man whose opinion could change lives with a single word, looking as intimidating as Miguel had imagined. The audience filled every seat, thousands of faces that blurred together under the lights. Miguel thought of his mother back in Manila, probably awake despite the time difference, praying her rosary beads smooth with worry and hope. He thought of his father, and his chest tightened with an emotion he couldn't name. Terry Cruz's voice boomed across the theater. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our next act, 12-year-old Miguel Santos from the Philippines." The applause was thunderous. Miguel walked out, each step feeling like he was moving through water. The stage was bigger than he had imagined, the lights hotter, the silence between the clapping somehow louder than any noise. He reached the center mark, a small X taped to the floor, and stopped. Simon leaned forward, his expression unreadable. "Hello, Miguel. You've come a very long way." "Yes, sir. From Manila." Miguel's voice was quiet, respectful, the way his mother had taught him to speak to elders. "And what brings you to America's Got Talent?" Simon asked. Miguel took a breath. This was the moment he had rehearsed 100 times, but now that it was here, the words felt stuck. "I want to show that dreams are possible, sir. Even for someone like me." Heidi smiled encouragingly. "Someone like you. You're a handsome young man." "What do you mean?" "The internet says I'm the richest Filipino boy," Miguel said, and there was a ripple through the audience, a murmur of recognition. "But it's not true." Simon's eyebrow raised. "I've seen the articles. Your family owns hotels, property developments across Southeast Asia. Your father is Eduardo Santos, one of the wealthiest men in the Philippines." Miguel's jaw tightened. "That's my father, sir. Not me." There was something in the way he said it that made the theater go quiet. Sophia leaned forward, her expression shifting from curious to concerned. "Miguel, is everything okay?" The boy looked down at his shoes, at the polish that hid the poverty beneath. When he looked up, his eyes were bright with unshed tears. "My father has money. My father has everything. But 2 years ago, he started a new family. He has a new wife, new children. He forgot about us. My mother works 3 jobs. My sister and I, we sing in the streets to help pay for school. The media, they see my last name and think I have everything. But I have nothing from him. Just his name." The audience gasped. Howie's expression transformed from skeptical to sympathetic. Heidi's hand went to her heart. Simon's face remained carefully neutral, but something flickered in his eyes. "When I sing in the streets," Miguel continued, his voice gaining strength, "people walk by and say, 'Why is a rich kid begging?' They don't know that I haven't seen my father in 18 months. They don't know that my mother cries every night trying to decide if we should eat or pay the electric bill. I came here because I want to succeed on my own. I want to show my mother that she didn't sacrifice everything for nothing." The silence was absolute. Terry Crews, standing off to the side, wiped his eyes. Simon cleared his throat. "What are you going to perform for us today?" "Hotel California, sir. By the Eagles." Simon's expression shifted to surprise. "That's a very ambitious choice for someone your age. Why that song?" Miguel's voice was steady now, clear. "Because it's about a place that looks like paradise but becomes a prison. It's about being trapped. My father lives in a hotel he owns, a beautiful place with marble floors and gold elevators. But my mother says he's trapped there. Trapped by his choices, by his need for more and more. I sing it to remind myself that I don't want that life. I want something real. All right, Miguel, Simon said quietly. Show us what you've got. The music began, that iconic guitar riff that everyone in America knew. But instead of the recording, a live guitarist appeared from the wings, and Miguel had insisted on this, on keeping it authentic. The boy closed his eyes, and when he opened them, something had changed. The nervousness was gone, replaced by a fierce determination. His voice, when it emerged, was not what anyone expected. It was not a child's voice trying to mimic adult singers. It was raw, textured, carrying pain and experience that seemed impossible for someone so young. He sang about dark desert highways and cool wind in his hair, and somehow he made every word feel personal, like he was telling his own story through someone else's lyrics. The audience was motionless. Heidi's eyes were wide. Howie had stopped fidgeting entirely. Sophia's hand covered her mouth. But it was Simon whose reaction was the most striking. The man known for his harsh critiques, for his unwavering standards, sat completely still. His eyes were fixed on Miguel, and as the boy moved through the verses, something remarkable happened. A single tear tracked down Simon's cheek. Miguel saw it. In that moment, as he sang about being unable to leave, about being programmed to receive, he understood that he had broken through. Not with technique alone, though his voice was extraordinary, but with truth, with the kind of honest emotion that couldn't be manufactured or taught. The guitarist moved into the famous solo, and Miguel stepped back, letting the music breathe. But his eyes never left the judges. He was pouring everything into this moment, every meal his mother had skipped to feed them, every night sleeping on mats on the floor, every time he had stood in the street singing while people sneered at the rich kid playing poor. When the final notes came, Miguel delivered them with a power that seemed to come from somewhere beyond himself. The last word hung in the air, and then there was a beat of absolute silence. Then the audience exploded. People were on their feet, screaming, crying, applauding so hard the sound was like thunder. The judges stood as one, a standing ovation that Miguel had been told was rare, precious. But Miguel was watching Simon. The British judge was standing, and he was wiping his face, not bothering to hide the tears now. Their eyes met across the distance, and Simon nodded, just once. A gesture of respect, of recognition. Miguel, Simon said, and his voice was rough with emotion. He paused, composing himself. I've been doing this show for many years. I've heard thousands of singers. Professionals, amateurs, children, adults. And every once in a while, very rarely, someone comes along who doesn't just sing. They testify. They witness. They make you understand something about being human that you'd forgotten. He paused, shaking his head. You did that. What you just did was not a performance. It was truth set to music. Your father is a fool. I don't say that lightly. But any man who would abandon a son like you, who would choose money and status over this, over you, is the poorest person I can imagine. Miguel's composure cracked. Tears spilled down his cheeks. Heidi spoke next, her voice gentle. Miguel, sweetheart, you have a gift. But more than that, you have courage. You stood here and told the truth when you could have pretended, when you could have let people believe the lie. That takes more strength than singing. I am so proud of you. Howie was nodding vigorously. Kid, I'm a father. And I'm telling you, if you were my son, I would be in the front row of every show you ever did for the rest of my life. You're incredible. Sophia was crying openly now. Miguel, Amor, you broke my heart and put it back together in 4 minutes. Your mother, she must be so proud. You tell her that Sophia says she raised a king. Simon raised his hand, and the audience quieted. We need to vote. Miguel, I want to say something first. This show has a golden buzzer. Do you know what that means? Miguel nodded, not trusting his voice. It means one of us can send you straight to the live shows. No more auditions, no waiting, no uncertainty. And I have to tell you, I've been saving mine. I've been waiting for someone who deserved it, who needed it, who would use this platform for something meaningful. Simon's hand hovered over the button. But I'm not going to press it. The audience gasped. Miguel's face